Vedant Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. I hope you can see devotees sufficiently. My head's in the way. How can I move my... What to do? Nothing. No, that's not the right thing. Oh, anyway. What to do? Too bad. Oh. TK. Malayga. Anyway, that's about as good as we're going to get without upsetting the whole arrangement. All right, so Kardama Muni is just now, he has presented different ideas, but now he's come to that point of accepting. All right, let the marriage take place. And he does go on further with further elaboration as to why he thinks it's a good arrangement. So here, though, in the purport, in the verse and in the purport, the point is being made. Well, particularly there's a focus on Devahuti herself and her level, the type of person she is, and what her position in life is. And Kardama Muni, he is, you could say, he is like a first-class yogi, and he wants to be married. And as a first-class yogi, spiritual person, pious person, he wants to have the first-class wife, someone who's going to be as suitable as possible. So he's presented here a couple of considerations, which, in order for the marriage, the arrangement to be actually first class, then those considerations should be there. So one of them is that she has fixed her mind upon him already. She's already heard about him. It's not that they're just being introduced, of course, but it's not like she never heard of him. She doesn't know who he is or what he is, but she has become well informed about what sort of person he is and what his character is like. And so she has also decided within her heart that yes, this is the best possible person for me. And in that way she has made a commitment within her heart. And as Prabhupada points out in the purport, female psychology dictates, and I will definitely not present myself as being any sort of authority on female psychology. But Prabhupada says here, female psychology dictates that when a woman offers her heart to a man for the first time, it's very difficult for her to take it back. So that sort of commitment in a married relationship is, of course, extremely valuable. If the woman feels that she has different options, and let's see what this option's like, and if it's not so good, well, then we'll take it from there and do something else, perhaps. This is not very nice. This is Kali Yuga, actually. This is like real Kali Yuga. But in this first-class arrangement, there are different elements making up the first-class arrangement. As we discussed the other day, one other element in the first-class arrangement is that the father of the girl approaches the parents of the boy, and not the other way around. We talked about that the other day. If it's the other way around, well, of course it can happen, but it's not a first-class arrangement for different social considerations. And so now another part of the first-class arrangement is that the girl has really committed herself within her heart to the young man, and that and she's never committed herself to anyone else. Then, of course, that she has not been married before, as Prabhupada says, so she's a virgin girl. So all these considerations convinced Kardama Muni. You add up these different points, and you come to the point that this is as ideal an arrangement as you could possibly have within this material world. And we're all well aware that to find first-class arrangements in the material world for anything is just not easy at all. So he felt this is good. He felt very satisfied with that. So then the marriage can be, the actual wedding ceremony can be undertaken according to Vaivahiko Vidhi. Vidhi meaning the strict rules and regulations. Vidhi, what you can do and not do, and what you should do and should not do. These types of considerations. So let the ceremony, the ritual of the marriage ceremony, let it take place. This is what he's saying, and it'll be first class all round. So of course Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he makes the point that there are different types, according to Vedic standards, different types of weddings or marriages. Just say marriages. And this is a first-class one, with the arrangements, like we said, the father of the girl, etc. But there are others which are acceptable. They may not be as first-class, really, but they're acceptable according to Vedic standards, and therefore in a Vedic social environment, they could take place, and all the family members and everyone could take part, and it would all be acceptable enough. Kali Yuga, now is Kali Yuga, the times have changed. The times have changed. You know, when I was young, I would read the newspapers, and there was one cartoon strip, you know, the typical sort of a series of pictures leading up to some funny conclusion, something like that. And I remember there was this one, don't ask me the name of it, but it was about cavemen and different, the lifestyles and activities of cavemen. And there, according to that cartoon strip, a standard method of marriage was that the young man would hit the young lady over the head with a club and knock her unconscious, and then grab her hair and drag her home. I'm not joking. I mean, it's a joke, but that's what the cartoon strip illustrated. And so occasionally, because I was following it for some time, back in those days, pre-Krishna consciousness. And a few times it happened in a few of these little stories that some young man walks in somewhere dragging a girl behind him. Okay, Haribol. But anyway, according to Vedic standards, there are different ways on different levels. And of course, first class is the best, obviously. But, and Prabhupada here mentions Gandharva marriage. Gandharva marriage is much less formal than this first class type of marriage. I did a little research, and Prabhupada explains that Gandharva marriage, it basically just involves the young man and the young woman deciding. Yeah, just like that. Another form of Gandharva marriage is where it's kind of similar but a little somewhat different. It's like, it involves a swayamvara, where the girl gets to choose, and different young men are invited, or they assemble, and they are interested, they would like to marry the young girl, but the young girl decides, and the parents allow that. So that happened, it was with Sita and Ram, wasn't it? Yes, Sita and Ram. Because Sita was a very high-class young woman, so she asked her father, Janaka, who of course was a great Vedic king and knew all the Vedic standards and was living according to the Vedic standards. But she asked her father, I would like to get married. Could we do it in this way? And so her father allowed it, even though it was not as first class as what has happened here, of Janaka Maharaj approaching, Dasarath perhaps, and in that way things being arranged. So Janaka Maharaj, very knowledgeable and actually a very great devotee, he allowed it. It's a form of Gandharva marriage where there is choice made amongst the young people involved. Yes, so that's a Gandharva marriage. A marriage, Prabhupada refers to a marriage by love. I tried to find some information and I couldn't locate any, but I guess it would seem to indicate, again, just the boy and the girl somehow or other, they come together and then a marriage takes place. But it also is accepted. Then there are other types too. There are other types. Prabhupada mentions even if one is forcibly kidnapped and later on accepted as a wife, that is also accepted. And the classic example, of course, a very classic example, is that of Lord Krishna marrying Rukmini. This is actually called a Rakshasa marriage. What a name. Anyway, that's the name, a Rakshasa marriage. And that's what happened between Krishna and Rukmini. We know the story, of course. Rukmini was to be married to Shishupal. And Rukmini was a devotee, a very great devotee. Very great devotee. Actually, Rukmini, according to Srila Rupa Goswami, Rukmini is Chandravali from Vrindavan. Either an expansion of her to associate with Krishna in Dwaraka outside of Vrindavan, or even Srila Rupa Goswami, the way he presents it in Lalita Madhava, is that she is actually Chandravali in person. In that, according to his explanation, when Krishna left Vrindavan, then not all, but many of the gopis, many of the wives of Krishna, they had been princesses. They had been princesses before they became married to Krishna, including, of course, Rukmini. So then, when Krishna left, well, anyway, in Vrindavan, they became gopis. They became gopis in Vrindavan and associated with Krishna in his pastimes in Vrindavan. But when Krishna left Vrindavan, Srila Rupa Goswami says that many of those princesses returned to their homes, their parental homes, where they had come from and somehow been sort of injected into or introduced into the Vrindavan pastimes. I don't know if does that make sense? They had been princesses, but somehow or other, at least some of them, like Rukmini, she came from her parental home to Vrindavan, and she became Chandravali. And she forgot that she had been Rukmini, and she accepted another set of parents as her parents, Chandrabhanu, and I forget his wife's name. And she forgot that she had been the princess, the daughter of Bhishmaka. But then when Krishna left, there were arrangements, and however many of these gopis who had been princesses, an arrangement was made for them to return to their parental homes and again become princesses. And Rupa Goswami says they forgot. Rukmini forgot that she had been in Vrindavan, and she just assumed the role again of being Rukmini. But actually, according to Rupa Goswami, she is actually the very same Chandravali from the Vrindavan pastimes. And so therefore, she's naturally a very great devotee indeed, with a very deep and very natural attachment to Krishna. So then when the arrangement was made for her to marry Shishupal, who was very much a non-devotee, you could hardly find someone who was more a non-devotee than Shishupal. He was just a hopeless case. As Maharaj Yudhisthira says to Narada Muni, just immediately, like seconds or a minute at the most, after Shishupal was killed by Krishna, as Maharaj Yudhisthira said to Narada Muni, that this person, Shishupal, even as a child, in the broken language of a child, he never ever said anything in his life other than criticism of Krishna. It's hard to imagine. It's very hard to imagine. But this is what Yudhisthira says, and he knew the family very closely. So never did he say anything about anything without criticism of Krishna being involved. Yeah. So, anyway, Rukmini, great devotee, Chandravali, or at least an expansion, definitely didn't want to marry him. And she had heard of Krishna, and the same sort of phenomenon internally, at least in her own person, the same sort of phenomenon happened. She heard about Krishna, and she became deeply attached to Krishna and committed herself to Krishna. She hadn't even met him exactly, under those circumstances at least, as Rukmini. But she decided, that's it. I want to marry him, that's all, nobody else. So then she wrote to Krishna, please rescue me. And to cut a long and very colorful story short, Krishna kidnapped her, and off they went. Yeah. And various friends, well, even Rukmi, the brother of Rukmini, who was also not a devotee, he tried to intervene to stop Krishna kidnapping her, and various other of his friends tried to stop Krishna from kidnapping her. They all failed, and Krishna rode away into the distance with her, having successfully kidnapped her. But then, very shortly afterwards, they came back, and then there was an arrangement for a wedding ceremony. Some ceremony was performed. Although in the technical sense, just the act of kidnapping was tantamount to a type of wedding ceremony. Therefore it's called the Rakshasa style of marriage. But then they did return, and there was a ceremony, and Rukmi and various others, they also attended the wedding ceremony. It's interesting, isn't it? They'd just been trying to kill Krishna, but Krishna got away, and now they're accepting it. They're actually accepting it. And a wedding ceremony took place. So that's a Rakshasa style. Aha. Yes. So anyway, that's sort of just a little bit of, what would you say, sort of cultural background in terms of systems of wedding ceremony and marriage ceremony. It's relevant to Krishna consciousness. It's not exactly a part of sadhana bhakti, but it's definitely a peripheral point of interest. But really, I could say what really struck me here was the qualification and just the condition of Devahuti, what her state of mind was and her position in life was. It was just so exemplary for a young woman who would like to be married. It's so exemplary. And it reminded me of a couple of verses from the Bhagavatam in which the ideal qualities of women are described. And therefore I thought, if you'll bear with me just for a few seconds, of reading a couple of these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, which describe like an ideal woman. Here we go. Listen to this, devotees. We are now in the 7th canto, chapter 11, verse 25. I'll just read the translation. There's I think 3 verses, in fact, which we'll read. To render service to the husband, to be always favorably disposed toward the husband, to be equally well disposed toward the husband's relatives and friends, and to follow the vows of the husband. These are the 4 principles to be followed by women described as chaste. Interesting. And the next verse, a chaste woman must dress nicely and decorate herself with golden ornaments for the pleasure of her husband. Always wearing clean and attractive garments, she should sweep and clean the household with water and other liquids, so that the entire house is always pure and clean. She should collect the household paraphernalia and keep the house always aromatic with incense and flowers, and must be ready to execute the desires of her husband. Being modest and truthful, controlling her senses, and speaking in sweet words, a chaste woman should engage in the service of her husband with love, according to time and circumstances. And there's one more, well, 2 more actually, verses. A chaste woman should not be greedy, but satisfied in all circumstances. She must be very expert in handling household affairs, and should be fully conversant with religious principles. She should speak pleasingly and truthfully, and should be very careful and always clean and pure. Thus, a chaste woman should engage with affection in the service of a husband who is not fallen. Hare Krishna. That's a little, what do they call that? Anyway, there's a term. Just a little final point, a little catch. What do they call it? Huh? Okay, anyway. Yeah. Engage in the service of a husband who is not fallen. And you can, if you want, read the purport. Prabhupada discusses this very point about what to do if your husband is fallen. Yeah. But otherwise, under nice circumstances, where the husband is not fallen and actually he's a good devotee and very sincere in how he is carrying out his duties as husband, well, then one should be like, as we read. The woman, so final verse, the woman who engages in the service of a husband, following strictly in the footsteps of the goddess of fortune, certainly returns home back to Godhead with her devotee husband and lives very happily in the Vaikuntha planets. So, ladies and just all of us, this is all very interesting, and actually it's very important. It's very important. Let me read another verse or 2 from Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 9th canto, the description of Lord Ram and his relationship with Mother Sita, and how they related as husband and wife. Let's see here. This is now 9th canto, chapter 10, verse 54, and we'll also read 55. Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other women. He was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of Varnashram Dharma. Thus he taught the general public by his personal activities. So that was Lord Ram, and I could just mention in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about, he particularly focuses on this point of Lord Ram and his Ekapatni Vrata, his vow to accept only one wife, and Prabhupada, of course, explains that in those days it was not uncommon, in fact it was actually common, that a man, particularly some powerful man like a Kshatriya, would accept more than one wife, and Lord Ram's father, he accepted more than one wife, but Lord Ram didn't. So the point that Prabhupada emphasizes about Lord Ram in terms of how he lived and acted as a householder is that he had his one wife, and there was no question of any other woman playing any type of part in his life at all. And therefore, Prabhupada mentions, he was so faithful to his wife that when Mother Sita was kidnapped, Lord Ram went to just great lengths to rescue her. His dedication to his wife was like that. To protect his wife, he would do literally anything. But Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. Yeah, Devahuti is very much following in the footsteps of Mother Sita. Very much following in those footsteps. But now is Kali Yuga. When I was doing a little research yesterday into the Bhagavatam verse we're reading, I read a part of a talk Prabhupada gave at a devotee wedding. He was participating in the wedding, and Prabhupada said, he gave a talk and he said that he explained what is the first-class system, as we've now read and discussed quite a bit of the father of the girl approaching, etc. So Prabhupada explained about that, but he said that in this age of Kali, it's not really so likely. And he referred to the wedding that was happening, where the young man and the young woman devotees had come together and made their own decision. He referred to it as a Gandharva wedding. Yeah. And he said, this is acceptable for this day and age. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Oh, Krishna. Oh, Krishna. The thing switched off after 1 hour. Welcome to Instagram. It's amazing. All right. Okay, so these are some thoughts. These are some thoughts on this verse and purport. Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here, the thing is here, the focus is on the wife. But obviously, it's not just all up to her. Yeah. The husband also. Well, we did mention here about Lord Ram, how Prabhupada brings out that qualification of Lord Ram, that he was so faithful and dedicated to his wife that he would protect her under any circumstances, even, if there was a possibility of death.
We see in the example of Kardama Muni that he was that perfected being that he could.
He what?
He was like a perfected being, after marriage he just like walked away. He wasn't attached. He had no attachment.
Okay.
So,
So your point is that he walked away or that he wasn't attached?
He wasn't attached.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say he wasn't attached. Wait till we read the verse tomorrow and then you'll see. It's not that he's not attached. Like just, who cares?
No, not like that.
If you insist, that sort of thing. No, he wants to. And he wants to marry her because he appreciates her. But he does make the point that, we'll see as the discussion goes on, but he does make the point that after the birth of the son, that this has to be part of the deal, so to speak, that at that point I will leave home and continue. I need to go through this experience, but only to a certain degree, and then I'm going to go back to a renounced life again.
Yes, so that should be setting an example to the devotees in particular, to take vanaprastha after a certain age.
Yes, good idea. Not to just sort of drag on. So the point she made is that it's a good example. Kardama's example is a good example for our devotees, current day devotees, that they should take vanaprastha when they reach a certain age, like 50 or so. And not just drag on, grihasta ashram forever until I drop dead. Because we see, it's just an interesting little point. And maybe it's not even a little point. But we do see in ISKCON that now there are many devotees, actually, there's many, who've been, they were living in temples, or if they were not, they were, even if they were working people living outside, but they were very serious devotees for many years. But then they reached that age where, according to the Varnashram, vanaprastha should happen, and eventually the husband, well, as Kadambakanana Maharaj has done. He was a householder also, living in the temple, but then he took sannyas. He went through a vanaprastha period, took sannyas. So we do see that not so many devotees are doing like that, actually. And, it's a little disappointing, actually, because Prabhupada does talk about it on numerous occasions. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, one last point. Were we offline for long? Because I just didn't see that we'd been thrown out.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very succinct class. The cartoon you were mentioning was BC.
That's what?
It was called BC. The cartoon about the caveman.
BC. Okay, BC.
I was also a big fan of that.
The cartoon strip I referred to is called BC. Means like ancient times, BC.
We're contrasting the Kadama Muni, the qualification, and Devavati. To present day ISKCON, we see so many marriages are, breaking up. And to what degree is the Guru involved in the arrangement of the marriage? And
to what degree
the Gurus get involved?
I see. Okay, did you hear the question? No. So the question is basically, well, the actual question is that we see many divorces in the current day situation. To what degree should the guru get involved in arranging the marriages? Yeah? To what degree? Well, that's a good question. It's a very practical question. And, you know, you'll probably find different devotees have different opinions, actually. But if you ask me, for my opinion, the guru can participate, or must participate at least to some degree, of course, because, but specifically to encourage it's a spiritual relationship. But as far as the actual decision, will we marry or will we not marry? That, in my opinion, and it's my practice, must be left to the couple themselves. Otherwise, you know, because it's Kali Yuga and it's so difficult. You know, people are so difficult. We're all difficult people. I don't know if you ever thought of yourself in those terms, but it's true. We're all difficult people. You know, at least to some degree, even though we're devotees, we're trying to be devotees. But you put two difficult people together, and, you know, you can try and see, maybe through astrology or just sort of common sense, are they compatible? To what degree do they seem to be compatible? But to be able to make some decision like, yes, I mean, for a person, another person, to make the decision for them that, yes, this is the right thing. You too should get married. This is my instruction, or, you know, even just guidance. You're really taking a big responsibility. And if, as you say, there are divorces, you know, it's becoming increasingly common. So if a divorce occurs, and, you know, obviously on the basis that they can't get on, and it's just because they're difficult, yeah, they just can't get on, and it reaches the point at least one of them feels, I just cannot tolerate this any longer. Then if the guru has actually, you know, like instructed to that you should do this, I want you to do this, please do it, then it reflects badly on him, which is not good, because the guru should give spiritual advice, and the couple should be open to getting the spiritual advice. If it seems they were given some bad advice or bad instruction before, and now it's come to this, you know, disastrous situation in the relationship, it's going to be really difficult for them to accept further advice about what to do now. Yeah, but if the guru has not become involved to that degree or in that way, then one would hope or expect that they would still be open to taking his advice in terms of sorting things out, you know, in whatever way. Either trying to help them understand each other better and possibly continue, or if they go their separate ways, to help them go their separate ways in Krishna consciousness, and know that they have support in their Krishna consciousness. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada came. Haribol. Thank you, devotees from internet land.